Hi guys, today I wanted to talk to you about business taxes. This is something that a lot of people have shown a lot of concern about in all of the WeWork events, the Wing events, the Riveter events that we have hosted in the recent past. And there's just a lot of confusion about how to address your business taxes and frankly, how to anticipate them. So after this last April and after the most recent tax season, we figured this was a good time to review what your taxes look like, how you should be filing or even setting up your business, and just to make a lot of these terms demystified and in plain English so that you understand them and can frankly either figure things out for yourself or approach an accountant with some specific questions that you might have. And ultimately, we don't want you to ever feel like taxes have to be the death of you or your businesses. Right now, taxes and a lack of financial understanding are actually one of the top reasons that businesses go out of business within the first 12 months. So we're all about making freelancers or side hustlers much more sustainable into the future and feel very confident about what they are doing or aware of when and how they should ask questions that can benefit them in the future. We come at this from a perspective of having been freelancers ourselves. So this is very near and dear to our hearts. And we know that there were a number of challenges that we just didn't know how to navigate ourselves, had to learn. And we feel like a lot of people are recreating the wheel over and over again for themselves. And we don't want that to be the demise of your business or frankly, even just pull down your income potential as a freelancer. With that, we just wanted to review the business types that you can actually work through as a freelancer. A lot of you are currently sole proprietors. That just means that it's you and you are just charging for the skills that you have directly to a client. You are not looking to incorporate or you're intimidated in the incorporation process and just haven't taken that next step. With a sole proprietorship, though, you want to make sure that you are the one keeping track of all of your clients throughout the year. And if they haven't asked you to fill out a W-2 form for them, that's really important to get from any one of your clients to make sure that they have your EIN number, not your Social Security number on file. And I will just flag this, as I will flag it in other webinars as well, that if you are a sole proprietor, do not fill out any forms with your Social Security number. Go to the irs.gov website, that's www.irs.gov, and you can get a free EIN number. That's an employee identification number. And that is something that you can put in the place of your Social Security number, and then you don't have that really personal data floating around, amongst a lot of different entities and with a lot of different reviewers. So make sure you do that. And then with a sole proprietorship, you should be able to get a statement from each of your different distinct clients in January of every year. However, you may not always get that. So again, that's why we encourage you to keep track of that yourself and how much you've made from all those people, whether it's through the Lance app or it's through your own spreadsheet or other tools that you might be using. The next stage up is a limited liability company. That's an LLC. You should absolutely look at incorporating yourself to this degree today as a freelancer, or even sometimes as a side hustler. We have seen historically a benefit from doing this in terms of your own coverage for your company. And that's really significant in terms of whether a client will ever feel like they didn't have their expectations met through your job, or you actually have something happen on the job, whether it's if you're walking a dog and it happens to bite somebody else, or a corporate strategy in terms of communications goes haywire because there was some sort of political spectacle happening that day. But the LLC does give you some coverage in terms of, one, separating your personal income from that of your company. So somebody can't go after your home or your personal assets, something goes wrong, but they can only come after the income that you've generated as a company. So really significant and historically has been so. There are additional benefits now to being a limited liability company in terms of the Trump tax bill that just got put into place in 2018 and is effective from that point going forward. You do get to get taxed at a lower rate as a company. That's if you are incorporated as an LLC and then choose to get taxed as an S-Corp versus your personal taxes, you get to get taxed in terms of that income at a 20% rate rather than a 30% rate. And so that can be really significant in terms of taking additional deductions, making sure that you associate them with your company, and kind of max those out, and then also are able to tax your overall income at a lower rate. And then you have a smaller bundle in terms of your personal income to tax as well as a result. So that's really significant. If you incorporate it as an S-Corp to begin with, that is a little bit more paperwork, and you just want to take that into account. Frankly, it's acknowledging that you have a payroll, and you can make that payroll, insignificant on a quarterly basis and then catch up on an annual basis. But this is where you would schedule a call with us to talk through it with our accountants and our legal team, or use some other venue like LegalZoom to set that up and make sure that you are aware of not just the setup and renewal fees on an annual basis, which are typically between $55 to $100 per state, but then you also are able to be accountable to the requirements of quarterly tax estimations and any sort of payments that are required both federally and by state. So again, just a little bit more paperwork, but can be really, really worth it in terms of your taxes. And then I will note that the LLC and S-Corp is actually something that we have heard more and more clients are looking for in terms of incorporation, as different states across the country are looking at minimum wages and are trying to distance themselves from being seen as an employer to somebody who's temporary or contributing to their team for a temporary period of time. They don't want to be held responsible for paying you benefits or, full-time salaries and all that. So if you immediately send them a contract from yourself as a legally incorporated entity, they can be more interested in you and working with you to a greater degree. So really significant. The C-Corp itself is just a larger entity. This is typically how startups, small businesses really incorporate. This is really more of interest to you if you are looking to hire on a team of people, bring on board members or shareholders. So not as likely for you to do as a freelancer or side hustler. And so just wanted to highlight those differences of business types. And then going forward, the basics of taxes are that you always have to file personal income taxes. That's how much money you make as an individual across the US from either your own income as a sole proprietor directly from clients, or through a company like an LLC, like an S-Corp, or a 9-to-5 kind of corporate job as well. So again, you always have to file your personal income taxes in the US and then the state that you live. There are certain states where you don't have state income taxes, like the state of Washington. But just know that you always have to file that on an annual basis. And if you haven't hit that annual timeline of April 15th, hopefully you filed an extension, and that extension is typically due around September of that year. So you have a kind of few months to get your paperwork together and file. You could be held responsible for any sort of penalties in that time frame, but it's not as typical from what we've seen. And then as a company, like I mentioned, as an S-Corp or C-Corp, if you have distinguished your LLC entity as getting charged on a tax basis as an S-Corp, or you've immediately filed as an S-Corp or C-Corp, you are then responsible for showing what your payroll is on a quarterly basis. A lot of accountants just zero this out, but then others may be more enforcing of however much you've made, least on an estimated basis in that quarter. And then you're expected to pay estimated taxes on that. So again, this is where you'd like to get a little bit more help, either from an accountant that you already have, from us at Lance or through another accountant that's in the area and recommended to you by other freelancers in your space. This is, again, a little bit less work if you're a sole proprietorship, and a little bit more work if you're incorporated, but it does come with great and increasing benefits. Did like this comic on the right-hand side of your screen, because there's so much that we learn in school, and it makes sense that you can get easily overwhelmed by your taxes and your income as a freelancer because we don't learn this stuff in school. Super practical for our everyday lives, post-school, whatever degree you advanced with, but it's not something that we're talked to about in the US on a regular basis, and frankly in other countries around the world as well. So this is why we're trying to put things in plain English for you, and are happy and willing to jump on the phone and connect you with any accountants we currently work with. Finally, if you haven't, again, filed for the year of 2018 and your taxes there, just make sure that you start working on them as soon as possible. If you owe money, even if you filed an extension, you do need to send in an amount of estimated taxes you owe. We are responsible for telling you that you might be levied fines or penalties if you haven't done that, or you don't do it very quickly. Again, we haven't seen much of this ourselves, but it is a good recommendation and thing to keep in mind, and frankly, incentive for you to get things done quickly. And if you're getting a refund, there are no fines or penalties levied because the US is getting to keep your monies for longer. And so you just want to file your taxes because you're due a refund, and it's great to have that money in your pocket instead of handing it over to somebody else for an indeterminate period of time. So get after it, get on top of your taxes and file them. And in this post-tax season, it is a great time to reset. We are outside of that period, so this is a great time for you to think about your goals for the rest of the year or even into the next year, how you are tracking against goals that you might have set in January or early on this year, and how they're materializing. Are there things that you are falling behind on or things that you want to address differently? How might you do that? How might you adjust your goals as a result? And frankly, take a closer look at your finances. Are there things that you're not doing well in terms of a habit or regular review? We here look at all of our goals on a weekly basis and then adjust them as needed. And even as freelancers, I personally would look at my to-do list on a daily basis, and at the end of every week would look at my finances, how everything was going, if I was spending too much or too little, if I had made the wrong choices, if there were any books that I wanted to buy that were reimbursable come tax time, from clients, or I could just deduct from my overall business expenses. And frankly, I would take a forward look in terms of any conferences that I wanted to attend, courses I wanted to take, that I could then highlight to future clients as, being more valued in my skill set, in my latest studies on how to do things better, and frankly, even widening my network of potential clients. So again, take this time outside of tax season to really think about your business and what you could be doing better or differently. And that makes it a really exciting time of year. Also a little bit of a relief, I'm sure, but take advantage and be productive with it. And otherwise, we are happy and available to answer any questions you might have on the various Lance channels. We have a Facebook group called Business Advice for Freelancers that is really useful and growing in terms of its membership. Not only is it a place that we provide tips for you to follow, but it's also a place where other freelancers talk to you and might have suggestions or even different peer groups for you to check out. We can also be found on Instagram, and just email us if you have any questions, you'd like to get on the phone with a local accountant, lawyer, are getting into some sort of trouble that you are anxious about. We're happy to help and help you navigate. With that, so excited that you decided to join this webinar. We're always open to suggestions in terms of anything else that would be useful. Use one of these channels to highlight that as well. And in the meantime, hope you have a great week and talk to you soon. Thanks.